Before we start the video, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I appreciate all the support I received from you. And as always, all the information in my videos is rumors taken from the internet or the street. I'm not saying the information is fact. The story of No Limit Faro, DrenchGang. On March 26, 2021, Pocketown held a gathering to celebrate Kevo's birthday, who was shot and killed in late September 2020, which I told you about earlier. The gathering was held in the 2500 block of West 79th Street, which is close to the territories of Stain City and BBG. The party was mostly members but also family, friends and not least children. At first, the party was successful. Everyone was happy, celebrating Kevo's memory, good food and drinks. Denny G from Pocketown uploaded stories on Instagram from the party where everyone had a good time, dancing to music and whatnot. However, just hours later, everything would change. The initially happy party would basically turn into a war zone with bullets whistling in the air. At the party were, among others, Killa Spook, Denny G, Lord, Mexico and Drilla from Pocketown, all top-tier members of Pocketown. At around 12:10 a.m., a car pulled up outside the party. At least two people got out of the car and started shooting up the party. The bullets whistled in the air as people at the party ducked, ran and tried to take cover in panic. Kenneth, 50, who lives near where the shooting occurred, said he was awakened by what sounded like automatic gunfire for 2 or 3 minutes. He dropped to the ground, even though his house was made of brick. He was not sure where the shots were coming from. Kenneth, who is a Marine veteran, said it felt like I was back in the Desert Storm. 8 people in total were shot at the party, where over 100 spent shell casings were found all over the place. One of the 8 people who was shot by the hail of gunfire was sadly fatally hit in the head. That person was Killa Spook, the leader of Pocketown. However, according to a source, Spook was hit by a stray bullet from a Pocketown member who was shooting back at the attackers. Among those injured were people like Denny G, Lord, Choke, Petty, Jojo and a more unknown member named Mount Larry, who was actually arrested after the shooting for unlawful use of the weapon, since he was one of the people who was shooting back along with Denny G, Rello and Mexico. Larry was charged after he was found laying on top of a 9mm gun in the back seat of a Dodge Charger in the 8200 block of South Damen Avenue that was seen leaving the scene. Larry suffered from a gunshot wound to his leg and was taken into custody after being hospitalized at Christ Medical Center in Oaktown. According to the police, several handguns were found at the scene of the shooting. However, they could not be linked to anyone at the time. Most of the wounded members got hit multiple times in the mass shooting. Unfortunately for Pocketown, the only one who got shot only once, and allegedly by a stray bullet, was fatally hit. And that man was Spook, who was hit in the head. Lord from OPTG, who was also shot in the head, fought for his life during surgery for several days at the hospital. Many thought that would not survive and that he had died, but fortunately he survived and has been on the road back ever since. Today he seems to be doing very well given the circumstances. Denny G had to spend several days in the hospital after the shooting. He was shot in the back and the doctors could not take the bullet out since it was lodged by his tailbone. Denny G said on his Facebook page after the shooting that he was just ready to go. The Pocketown member MT Larry I just mentioned was also charged in a COVID-19 loan fraud. Included in that case were also 2 U.S. Army soldiers, Brandon Miller and Jarius Brunson, stationed at Fort Campbell along the Tennessee-Kentucky border. What's interesting about the U.S. Army soldiers Brandon Miller and Jarius Brunson is that they are currently facing federal conspiracy charges in connection with an alleged gun-running operation, masterminded by Brandon, Jarius and one other U.S. Army soldier, DeMarcus Adams. What is interesting about this is that Pocketown is also involved in these federal charges because they are the gang that received the weapons and supplied them to members of Pocketown. The 21-count indictment, unsealed in federal court in Nashville, charges the soldiers and 9 gang members of Pocketown with conspiracy, money laundering conspiracy and conspiracy to commit firearms offenses in furtherance of a drug trafficking crime. The 9 members from Pocketown who were arrested and are now facing federal charges are Rello, Dresky, Lil Raw, Corey Got Clout, Pac Migo, Dreadhead Larry and 2 others named White and Lazarus who I am not familiar with. Every single one of these members are older and outstanding members of Pocketown. Pac Migo, Lil Raw and Corey Got Clout are all 3 rappers, but as you probably guessed, rapping was not their only gig. Dreadhead Larry, who is also facing charges, is one of Pocketown originals. He's the cousin of Spook and is one of King Rico's best friends. Rello, Dresky, EJ and Lil Raw are all very well-known members with bodies under their belts, allegedly. What triggered this whole investigation by the FBI was the mass shooting where Spook was killed and several other top members shot. An interesting detail is that if Spook had survived, he too would have faced federal charges along with one other man who was also killed before the investigation began. However, he was shot and killed on another occasion. After further investigation, it turned out that the pistol that was found in connection with the arrest of CK from Pocketown after the murder of Lil Greg, a .40 caliber Glock 23 pistol with a laser sight and drum magazine of ammunition, was bought by the U.S. Army soldier, Brandon Miller, from a licensed gun dealer in Kentucky less than a month before police found it on CK. A search of cell phones belonging to the soldiers revealed text messages that show the 3 soldiers discussing the prices of firearms, how many were to be purchased and from where. These three people really supplied Pocket Town with heavy artillery, and I'm sure there are more similar gun-running pipelines in Chicago. Everything really went wrong for Pocket Town. 8 members shot, which left their leader dead, and because of that mass shooting, the FBI managed to expose their gun-running pipeline, which resulted in 9 of Pocket Town's top members facing federal charges. I guess this gun-running business has been going on for at least 7 years, since in April 2015. Both Spook and Rello got locked up for guns that were reported stolen from Tennessee. In the weeks leading up to the mass shooting, police sources said that there was an emerging conflict between Pocket Town and No Limit due to the murder of G Herbo's close friend Lil Greg less than 2 months earlier. According to police sources, the suspected shooters of Kill a Spook are linked to the No Limit faction of Black P. Stones. On April 11, 2022, one, maybe 2 members, was arrested in connection with the murder of Spook and the 7 other attempted murders. Lil B from Burley Boys /Roblox/JMEB was one of the arrested according to court documents. He was released the next day due to lack of evidence. The reason why I said that there were maybe 2 arrested that day is because I highly suspect that Faro from DrenchGang also was arrested on April 11th and released the next day. I believe this because on April 12th, Faro uploaded a story on Instagram with the text, "I'm back," followed by a demon emoji. Faro himself denied this information and said that the reason for the story was that he had gotten his account back from a girl. I will let you be the judge of that explanation. Already in early November 2021, in the story of No Limit Mad Max, I told about a member who was supposedly involved in the mass shooting. That member was No Limit Faro. Lil B is currently locked up on unrelated gun charges. This was Faro's second alleged body at the time, only at the age of 17. I have received confirmation from both Pocket Town and No Limit that Faro was one of the alleged shooters, with at least 1 other member from NLMB along with at least 1 member from GMEBE who are allied with NLMB. The names I have heard are Lil Loss, Twino and Lil Ro from DrenchGang, Emo from MB, Roblox and Lil B from Burley Boys /Roblox. However, a detail to take into consideration, I've actually heard from very credible sources that Lil B was not present at all and that he was only arrested because it was his car that was used on the hit. However, according to the same source, Lil B has been shot at nearly every week since the hit went down. In Faro's song, Switch Glocks and Choppas, he even rapped, "Catch me on EA, Lil Emo with me, he got that Mac tucked." How No Limit and GMEBE actually got the location where the party was held is probably due to an unknown woman who dropped the location to No Limit. Both No Limit and Pocket Town have hinted about this information. In the song Locked In, by G Herbo, which he dropped on February 4, 2022, 1 year after Lil Greg was killed, he rapped, "We make women drop lows and they text in lock codes," along with the lines, "We could not wait to bust on him. Took years, he had luck though, but F buddy, he cutthroat, me and fo nem cutthroats, we ain't waiting on no get back, so his Branham must go," which is most likely aimed at Spook and Pt4 who we will come to later. In an Instagram story, Lil Don from Pocket Town wrote, "We catch that girl who dropped that low, we gon' make her feel it, ain't nowhere you can hide, I hope they paid you $1 million. However, I actually heard that this line was for the girl who set up Pt4. Faro and several other members from No Limit have mocked Spook several times after the mass shooting. G Caro posted a story with the text, "It's spooky outside," and Jock posted a story with the message, "Nah, don't cry now, Long live Greg. Twino from DrenchGang made several posts on his Facebook page, including one post where he wrote, "It's not even summertime and we make people melt." After Twino's tragic death in a car crash in June 2022, Lil Don from Pocketown revealed that Twino often used to DM him, saying it's spooky outside. Several Pocketown members also uploaded pictures of spook after Twino's death. On January 28, 2022, the one-year mark for the murder of Lil Greg, several No Limit members posted stories with mockery towards Pocketown and KTS. Faro posted a picture of Lil Greg with the text, "I love you big bro. We made people regret ever putting their hands on you, for real." He also posted another story with the message, "You got a lot of company up there, and got more coming." Cairo also posted a few stories with long paragraphs, among other things. Cairo wrote, "People talking all that funny shit, but they know we make shit very scary on my dead homie. We fed up a lot of happy homes and blocks for you." EBK Juviju posted a story with the text, "I remember the ops were making posts saying they want to die when their daddy spook died." Lil Don from Pocketown actually responded to all of these posts with his own stories where he wrote, "Why is everybody writing paragraphs? Don't cry now. Be gangster. It's bodies on both sides. Talk some funny shit today, or is it hurting that bad?" However, there would be consequences for No Limit after the murder of Spook. The same day that Spook was pronounced dead, Pocketown allegedly slid on No Limit and Gem/Roblox. A 32-year-old man was even shot on No Limit's block after Spook was killed. The next day, once again, shots rang off on No Limit's blocks, and this was repeated throughout the month of April 2021. A person was shot on No Limit on April 7th, shots rang off again the next day. April 11th, 14, 20, 25 and 28 are all dates when shots rang off on No Limit. However, it does not have to be Pocketown or KTS that was behind the shootings. It may be in other circumstances, but April really stood out compared to other months before Spook was killed, which says a lot. The shootings continued towards No Limit later in the summer and throughout June. However, in early July 2021, No Limit would score again, and they would score big. On April 27, 2020, KTS Stray got arrested and charged with unlawful use of a weapon, aggravated assault with a weapon, a warrant that was issued due to a parole violation. Dre remained locked up during large parts of 2020 before he was later released at the end of 2020 in November. What is unclear here is whether he was put on house arrest or if he had been fitted with an ankle bracelet. Why I wonder this is because it plays a big role in the speculation around whether Pt4 or Lil Don was the killer of Lil Greg just 3 months after Pt4 was released. Just as I mentioned earlier, I have heard it was either Pt4 or Lil Don. Anyways, in either late May or late June 2021, Pt4 was arrested yet again, most likely for violating his parole for his charges from 2020. I have seen some people, including news sites, reporting that Dre had been locked up since his arrest in late April 2020 until his release and death in July 2021. This is false. Just 4 days before the murder of Lil Greg, Pt4 was on IG arguing with people from No Limit, and also posted several stories from December 2020 until May 2021. I just wanted to clarify it in case you got confused by the news site reporting. On July 10, 2021, Dre would be released from jail after a 60-year-old woman had posted his $5,000 bond. As many of you already know, Pt4 did not have time to be out in the free world long before his life would tragically end. On his way out of jail, Pt4 was walking with an unknown 60-year-old woman and a 35-year-old activist who works outside the jail to assist newly released detainees. What Pt4 did not know when he walked out of the prison gates was that a white BMW and a black Infiniti waited outside the prison walls. As soon as Pt4 had walked outside of the gates and across the street to the 2700 block of West 27th Street, 4 or 5 men, who had been waiting to ambush Dre, popped out the cut and began to literally empty their magazine towards Pt4. A hail of gunfire hit Dre, who instantly fell to the ground where he was struck by another hail of gunfire. Multiple bullets per second came flying towards Dre as he was laying bloody on the ground. Switches were most likely used by the shooters. According to police, Pt4, whose real name was Londra Sylvester, suffered from 64 bullet wounds all over his body, with at least 10 of them striking him right in his face. However, I do not believe Dre was hit with 64 bullets. The police are most likely including both the entry wounds and exit wounds, which suggests that Dre was shot around 32 times. Police recovered 59 spent shell casings on the scene, and I doubt all of them hit Dre. The 60-year-old woman who was walking with Dre was shot in the knee. Fortunately, she survived and was listed in good condition at Stryger Hospital. The 35-year-old social worker was also wounded in the shooting. She was grazed by a bullet to her face. She too was said to be in good condition. Londra Sylvester, only 31 years old, was pronounced dead at Mount Sinai Hospital in less than half an hour after the shooting. The scene was really a nightmare, and I can't even imagine the trauma for the 2 women who had to witness it. There was blood and bullets everywhere. I think mostly of Kt4's mother, who has now lost 2 of her sons, Kt4 and Kt4, and their father, Vinny, to gun violence. I hope she can find peace somehow despite all the horrors. His mother made a post a couple of weeks after the murder with the text, "It's sad I can't give my son a funeral, not because of money, but because of the lack of respect people have for dead people." The killer of Kt4 was, according to very reliable sources, Faro, Twino, Lil Hot, Muwop, Varu, Cairo and Merch Money, all top members of DrenchGang, and LMB. All 7 have made self-incriminating comments since the hit went down in July last year, both in songs and on social media. This is actually one of those murders where members have themselves snitched the most, at least from what I've seen, not least by Cairo and Faro. We start with Faro. In the song, Switch Glocks and Choppas, which is a remix of Lil Durk's song Hellcats and Trackhawks, Faro started the song by rapping, "Jump out gang, we pop out with sticks, all the uppers was just laughing until dude got hit, ain't seen another laugh or joke since he got his shit split." Faro have also posted a lot of Facebook and Instagram. Only 6 days after the murder, No Limit Muwop wrote, "Gauge way or gunplay," which Faro answered with, "Lots of gunplay." Faro later posted stories with the following messages, dissing No Limit in them raps not gone end good, "You people should know by now," and, "Ops my target practice, I ain't never been in no range." Faro also posted a picture of him and No Limit Cairo with the caption, "You know once we put a dude on mute, they will never be able to talk again." There are several other stories from Faro and I will let them speak for themselves. Muwop from DrenchGang, who was also one of the alleged killers, probably acted most recklessly on social media after the murder among the alleged killers. The day after the murder, he posted stories saying things like, "Keep your eyes open, ain't no lacking homie, pack of the year, up that score, my ops be pressed when they lose, we call they phone like yes, play with No Limit, that's a bad decision," and was even trolling with No Limit Cairo that they wanted to play Nintendo 64, referring to the amount of bullets Dre allegedly caught. As many of you already know, Cairo had a personal beef with Pt4, since Dre punched him in the face at the McDonald's restaurant, which was caught on camera by Pt4. This is a situation Cairo ironized after the murder of Pt4. He posted stories saying things like, "My job been hurting all day, let me go in the house before somebody shoot at me. It's a lot of angry people outside," and even posted a picture of Pt4 with the text, "I miss you big bro." Cairo later also posted a picture of him and DrenchGang Faro, giving him the award for being the Savage of the Year. This was actually very common in the years 2012 to 2013, to nominate the MVP in the streets for the year, which usually means that person put in a lot of work. Cairo was really ruthless on social media. He even posted a screenshot of the news article about Pt4 with the caption, "People are so sick, it's disturbing, nobody deserves this," and also answered a troll mocking him on direct messages. The troll sent a message basically saying what Pt4 said after Cairo got punched in the face at McDonald's, "Damn, I think you just broke your jaw lil folks." Cairo responded to this message with, "Nope. He bust my lip. Tell him to come do it again." Lil Hot from DrenchGang, who was one of the alleged shooters, also wrote several self-incriminating posts on Facebook just days after the murder. Among other things, he made posts saying, "DOA, OMG, somebody go help that guy, he was only out for 15 seconds, and, the guys cannot call my people the ops no more," which referring to that Lil Hot apparently have a lot of family from Lakeside. What's crazy is that even G Herbo, who otherwise usually stays quiet, made posts about this incident. He posted an IG story with the message, "Better check the board, we upped that score." G Herbo also mocked Pt4 and Spook in the song Locked In, which I talked about earlier, and he finished off the song with the line, "I love revenge, that's a warm dish, no bap." There are a dozen other examples of self-incriminating comments and mockery towards Pt4, but I think it's best if I let the pictures speak for themselves instead of lining up all the examples in the text. There are many who wonder how No Limit knew about Pt4's release and whereabouts. According to very reliable sources, Pt4 was allegedly set up by what he thought was a trusted friend. His friend, whose name starts with a T, drove to the Cook County complex together with the 60-year-old woman who was Dre's HB mother. I don't have the exact figure, but from what I've heard, No Limit paid D a large amount of money to release the information about Pt4's whereabouts. According to rumors, T was already far from Dre once the shots started to whistle in the air, because she knew what was about to happen. Dre was totally blindsided. He really thought he could trust her. However, according to sources, he knew something was about to happen, which is why he asked them to walk ahead of him. T was allegedly broke at the time. Dre had even given her money, but 2 weeks after the murder, T was in Mexico. I'm not going to share a picture of T because after all, these are rumors and nothing confirmed, and I don't want to expose her to anything as she may be innocent. According to reliable sources, there were more offenders present than those I mentioned, and that the 2 cars waiting outside the prison walls were filled with members. I believe there were 8 members on the hit with 5 to 6 shooters. I have mentioned 7, Faro, Muwap, Lil Hot, Twino, and Merch Money, were Faro, Cairo and Muwap. Faro, Twino definitely were 5 of the shooters according to sources. I have one more name that could have possibly been on the hit, and that is Flock from Men, LMB, the brother of Magic who was killed by Pt4 in 2019. But that's pure speculation. Pt4 was truly an outstanding member, and I am not surprised by all the mockery that came after his death. He had multiple bodies. He was behind most of the work that has been linked to his brother, Pt4. He was allegedly behind the murders of Rock and Alamo from NLMB in early 2012. He then got arrested for the murder of Big Loss from NLMB, also in the year 2012, but was later released. In 2019, he was involved in the murder of Magic from NLMB, and I'm pretty sure he was involved in more shootings and murders. No Limit really hated Dr. E. Muwap from DrenchGang even stated that the killing of Pt4 was personal. Pt4 was truly an outstanding member, and I am not surprised by all the mockery that came after his death. Pt4 was also one disrespectful man. We all know what he did at McDonald's. Literally embarrassed Cairo for the whole world to see, even though Cairo actually stood his ground and did not disrespect Rock. That incident is still in Cairo's head. Recently he recorded a vlog in that same McDonald's that he was beaten in 2012. He trolled throughout the video, saying the ones who did it ain't here anymore, and even tried to order a knuckle sandwich. These vlogs have actually been a big success for Cairo. But for me, who knows that Cairo was one of the alleged cold-blooded killers, the vlog gives me a completely different feeling than funny. However, he has all rights to do this. Dre mocked Rock, Capo, Kobe, Mad Max and several other No Limit members as well. No Limit really wanted him gone, probably more than they wanted Von gone, since Dre actually put in more work. I don't actually think people understand how big the score actually was. Kt4 is really out for revenge, and they are mostly looking for Faro and Cairo from DrenchGang. Kt4 have a lot of youngins coming up. All of them have bodies under their belt or have hurt a lot of people, and those are words from Michi from Kt4. In addition, face shots from Kt4 were recently released and have hinted about Get Back. The Get Back may not come this year, but as you all know, there is no expiration date on revenge. Pocket Town has a hard time sliding back right now since the police are watching them closely and the majority of their members are currently locked up, not least Lil Don, who is their main shooter. According to inside sources from Pocket Town, those members who are free are scared to do anything to No Limit. Of the 8 losses NLMB took in 2022, Pocket Town and Kt4 haven't been involved in one. Even Lillard from Pocket Town said that Kt4 is not sliding, and Kt4 said the same thing back. There have been tensions between Kt4 and Pocket Town due to the losses of Dre and Spook. It is really infected between No Limit and Pocket Town. There have now been several murders in just a few years, and according to those I have talked to, Pocketown is still up on NLMB, and that they only now after the murder of Lil Greg have started catching up by killing KTS Stray, Spook, and possibly Freeband Bobo, and shooting a dozen Pocketown KTS members. DrenchGang is probably the wildest shorties in the city, and not only shorties, also people like Mally, Mineski and Wadema are part of DrenchGang. DrenchGang is basically an internal group within No Limit, and you can only claim it if you have caught a body. However, the problem with these killings DrenchGang has carried out, especially the two I just talked about, a mass shooting and a brutal murder outside the prison, is that they have eyes on them from both the police and the FBI. No Limit has had the FBI's eyes on them even before the brutal murder of Shoota Shells, and I'm pretty sure that No Limit, or at least DrenchGang, will be exposed to a RICO case against them sooner or later. Either a RICO case or that most of the outstanding members will get locked up for murders and get long sentences. You just can't carry out killing sprees like this. The police have even stated that they know there is a conflict between No Limit and Pocketown. There have also been several shootings, attempted murders and even murders after the murder of KTS Stray where innocent people have been shot or killed. Just a few months ago there was a mass shooting near No Limit's hood where 8 people got shot. Faro and Lil Loss from No Limit quickly went out on social media and stated that all of the people who got shot were innocent people. A year ago, an innocent man got killed in Pocketown territory, which Lil Don from Pocketown clowned the enemies for. Michi from KTS got shot at in February 2022. There have basically been a whole lot of things going on between No Limit and Pocketown KTS, and there was more to come. Just 1 month after the murder of KTS Stray, Faro's family lost a close friend, Drilla from No Limit Money Mafia, the same set Simo and Faro's dad Boss Blizz claimed. Stro was an older member from NLMM. He was a big trapper but also a rapper, however with only a couple of thousand views on each video. Drilla and a 34-year-old woman were among a group of people in the 7500 block of South St. Lawrence when someone opened fire. Stro was shot in the chest and was taken to the University of Chicago Medical Center where he tragically died. The woman was shot in the leg and was also taken to the University of Chicago where her condition was stabilized. This happens near territory of KTS, but I actually have no idea who was behind the murder or if Stro was the target. However, this incident is just a parenthesis in the story. I doubt it has anything to do with NLMB's conflicts. I mention this mostly because Drilla was close with Faro's family. After this incident not much more happened between No Limit and Pocket Town the rest of 2021 other than mocking back and forth on social media between DrenchGang and Pocket Town. Some days it was very hot and dead members were mocked left and right. Cairo has actually constantly mocked Pt4 since the murder in one way or another. We are now entering the year 2022, and we can almost put the conflict with Pocket Town behind us as the beef have briefly calmed down between them and No Limit. Instead, it is the conflict with Death Row and Buff City that flared up again, as well as the conflict with Paxtown. This is also the year Faro turned 18, which is crazy since we have already talked about so much dirt he has done before he even became an adult. We started with the murder of Velo from Death Row 085 BTBG who was killed on April 12, 2022. Now, once this happened, before people really knew where Velo was killed, a lot of people thought DrenchGang was behind it, Faro and the twins in particular. The reason people thought this was because of all the mockery by No Limit. The mockery flourished on social media, especially by DrenchGang members who mainly are into it with Death Row. That's their beef and the rivals they grew up with basically. Velo was also a well-respected member who had been in several shootouts with DrenchGang and surely been present on at least one hit. Velo was also involved in other wars. In August 2020, he allegedly killed BT from No Limit 083 together with Dez from Lakeside and Fa from Death Row. However, Velo also heavily claimed BTBG, which stands for Baby T Blood Gang, a traveling vice lord located on the west side of Chicago. It was in their conflicts that he was most active, the beef with Beam Team and Ghost Mob for example. Anyway, the main reason thought it was No Limit that was behind the murder is because the date Velo died is the same date Faro's cousins Fazo died on. In addition, even G Herbo posted a picture of Faro and the twins, also known as the Big Three, with the caption, "Them ones is my lil buzz nem. Born NLMB the G Fazo way, stay active." All this made many people start to speculate and believe that Faro and the twins killed Velo. However, after more details were revealed about Velo's death, it turned out that the NLMB was not behind the murder. Firstly, Velo was killed inside of an apartment in Rantoul, which is approximately 2 hours away from Chicago. Already here there were two things that indicated that it was not NLMB. Partly the distance but also that Velo was killed in an apartment, which usually means it was someone the victim was familiar with. A few months after the fashion, the alleged gunman was arrested, a man by the name of Quayante Cheney, a name that is totally unknown to me. However, this proved that DrenchGang was not behind the murder. Just 4 days after the murder of Velo, Merch Money from NLMB was arrested and charged with several crimes such as unlawful use of a weapon, burglary, armed violence, possession of a stolen vehicle, narcotics and several other gun charges. Merch Money is still locked up to this date, January 28, 2023, with a $200K bond. Merch Money is also a member who expressed his displeasure with G Herbo because he doesn't bond him out. A month later it was another member's turn to get locked up, Lil Hot from DrenchGang. This was an incident that No Limit Faro were also involved in and arrested for. On May 14, 2022, Illinois State Police located a stolen dark gray Chrysler 300 which was identified as the offender in an expressway shooting that occurred just a few hours earlier on the Stony Island feeder ramp near 95th. One man, who got treatment right away, said he was shot in the arm. Once the police located the Chrysler 300, they initiated a pursuit of the vehicle. After a quick pursuit, the offending vehicle crashed and 3 men tried to flee on foot, but police managed to arrest 2 of the fleeing offenders, Lil Hot and Faro from DrenchGang. The third one managed to escape. Several weapons were found in the car in plain sight: an AM-15.223 caliber rifle, a stolen Smith & Wesson from the Atlanta Police Department in 2013, and a Glock 31 Gen 4.358 caliber with extended magazine. Lil Hot got hit with several charges such as unlawful use of a weapon by a felon, possession of a firearm, resisting arrest, and possession of a stolen vehicle. Lil Hot is still locked up to this day, January 28, 2023, awaiting trial. Faro, however, he was not charged with any of the guns in the car. They couldn't tie them to him. He only got charged with narcotics, criminal trespass to a motor vehicle and resisting arrest. He got released the next day. Small details like this, rich with information, say a lot about Faro's life, how active he is. If he hadn't been arrested for this, we would never know, and incidents like these is not something members brag about, but for us outsiders, it is incredibly interesting. I strongly doubt that this is the only incident where Faro have been involved in an attempted murder, which it actually is, despite what the charges say. I doubt they shot the man to wound and not kill. In the next coming days, No Limit would lose 2 members and 1 affiliated female. On May 28th, Baby D, who was G Slim's baby mama, was shot on the Dan Ryan Expressway at 47th Street. State troopers responding to the shooting found Baby D, 25, with a gunshot wound to the head and tragically passed away a week later at hospital. No Limit and her family held a huge funeral for her with all the top members present, which says a lot about how close she was to several members. Who was behind the murder is unknown and no one has been arrested. Only 3 days later, No Limit would lose an official member, an older member called Shine. Shine, 39, was in the front yard of an apartment complex in the 7800 block of South Colfax Avenue when someone opened fire. Shine was struck in the torso several times and was pronounced dead at the scene. According to initiated sources, the set behind the murder was McGang, who are allied with Paxtown, who No Limit is at war with. Like I said, Shine was an older member. There were not many from No Limit who honored him after his death, but not because of his age, but because in 2018 he was arrested and charged for breaking into his ex-girlfriend's house, threatening her with a hammer and raping her. This was No Limit's first loss of the year, not including Baby D since she wasn't really a member. However, there is a rumor that a man with the nickname Hey Dog, who was killed in early April 2022, was a member of No Limit, but to my knowledge this is false. I even asked some members about it and got the response, "Who is that?" He was also killed a long way from No Limit's hood, in a living room of a Roseland apartment, so I highly doubt he was a member. Shine was their first loss of the year. This was the fourth part of the story of No Limit Faro from DrenchGang. Part 5 coming soon. I send my condolences to all the families who have lost loved ones to gang violence in Chicago.